let's start with some words of introduction, because I'm not active in the Polish community, but I've been working with Magento and Varien since 2003. I was the first employer, and I was doing everything like in startups. I was a programmer, project manager, sales engineer, product manager, and I'm currently dealing with Magento 2 as a product manager. So now a bit about Magento's history. Where did Magento come from? Varien, then early Arabin, was started with various open source projects, but they quickly focused on e-commerce projects in our modified version of OS Commerce, because you must know it because it revolutionized e-commerce for smaller companies. Then we had Magento as the internal project of some programmers, and it is worth mentioning that in this room we have 3 people from the first team implementing Magento: Andrzej, Ivan, and Alexander. So maybe you could stand up. Ivan, India Czepurny, Andrzej, and Alex Stadnicki.
Okay,
maybe they're waiting for the after party. So you might find them later, people who developed the first edition of Magento.
First version of Magento issued in 2007. People were very interested. They were all waiting for the novelty compared with the previous open source OS Commerce solution. And after 6 months, Magento 1.0, so there was much interest from large enterprise, so we decided to have the Magento Enterprise version ready. Magento has always made efforts to track the latest technologies. iPhone theme in 2008, after the launch of the first iPhone, so it means something. So we were, in fact, at the forefront of mobile technologies. In 2010, Magento Mobile for Android and iPhone and HTML mobile theme 2011, and acquisition by eBay late last year. After the investment from PayPal, we have more than 100,000 stores on Magento platform, community and enterprise together. Apart from ordinary stores you see every day, because of its flexibility and the time to implement on the market, which is 3 to 6 months, and not a year like competitors, it has been a good solution for innovative firms like Tom's Shoes. Maybe not everyone knows it, but they invented the idea to buy a pair and get a pair free. Not the same, but adequate, similar shoes. So you can give such shoes to children in Africa to walk long distances. Recently they've launched their own glasses. We buy glasses and then, using charities all over the world, someone gets a pair of glasses or eye tests or some free surgery, medical procedures like cataract removal. So it's a good approach to sales. So, for example, this success, so the owner didn't like his trousers, and he invented new trousers. The firm has been developing on the Polish market. They don't have returns that you can return anything anywhere, but we will get there. And for those companies who want to access a new market quickly, they have the main store in a large system, but they want to access a new market, so they can do it quickly with Magento, or they have non-standard solutions. That's an example of a brand of children's apparel and accessories in Kuwait. An address may refer to the entire street or or more than 10 buildings. So at the delivery stage, you can actually pinpoints to your building, and the company has drivers properly dressed in uniforms to visit women who are alone at home, and they have GPS data. They can access, can go to the building, and it would be difficult to do it with other systems which are not so flexible, so we can give coordinates and go there. So our clients have been very successful there, have been growing incredibly, like Tom's shoes retailer, and we want them to continue to be successful with Magento. We want to develop with them together and to help them become successful. And we do it in two ways. One is the release of a service pack soon for the version 1.x, that is to improve indexing cache and to fix the bugs. I don't know how many service packs we'll have, but this will be a long-term support for version 1 for those who will continue with version 1 can be supported and continue working on Magento 1 for some time to come. So they won't need to change the platform. And then we have Magento 2, our largest project. Why largest and why project? Magento 1 was created in a void. There were no clients. We didn't have the entire ecosystem back then. Now we have 6,000 extensions, 100,000 users. Now we can't actually create a situation where they would have to change everything, like some suggest use Python. We have to take care of the existing customers. Why only a draft project? We are a long way from development stage. With Magento 2, we are at an early stage. This is a huge project which takes time. So what's going to happen in the future? Why Magento 2, not Magento 1.13 or 1.8 community? Magento based its experience on SMEs, so we guessed some things, had some improvements in the way, but after all, you use your own knowledge, your own experience. And as you know, it's difficult for programmers to learn because of the complex code, and it's difficult for merchants with Magento Code. Merchants have problems with operating their stores, especially those who didn't use such sales system in the past, or hadn't used them. So apparently it couldn't be all improved without breaking up the compatibility downwards. So we want to change some things, we have to change some things fundamentally in the system. I've recently read an article about firms in which someone invested, And then 1 year after the investment, they remain silent. They're not releasing everything. That's the time where they have to finally make up for all those tasks and formalities they have to comply with. They have the money, they don't have to rush, they do the paperwork. With Magento 2, we decided to have modular-based structure so that parts of the application which are not used can be switched off. The capacity for more customers, ease of use for beginners, and ease of programming for developers not to spend long hours over nonsensical bugs to see what didn't work. Quality or test confirmed quality unit tests, reliable and complete documentation. If you know Agile, one of the program's obligations is to provide documentation, which is reviewed by technical writers later. So it has to be in the proper language, proper structure. The documentation is made available. And Magento 2, with such objectives, requires material changes to the code. It's not about rewriting the whole code, but the changes are really huge. Well, documentation, we are lagging behind with the documentation. Well, we have to review everything to look through it. Our internal documentation is updated. It's the published documentation which is not all there yet. So with each development program, we have the functionality which is documented and it changes, and algorithms, so a lot of that. It will help you and help us. What are the external changes awaiting us in Magento 2? Visual design editor, maybe the name will be changed to designer. That's the possibility to enter any online store website and to the customer's perspective and to change, move items. You have 5 items displayed, 5 products, you can switch to 3. So such possibilities for marketing people and also for those who create the templates, so we can prepare them properly. You have an extension showing best sellers. You can configure whether this should show 5, 10 or 15. Instead of entering the configuration, that is the code, you just click you want 5 or 10. Would be much easier. Store launcher. That's a new system. If you have experienced Magento Go, that's something like a wizard. You can call him what you should do in order for the store to be ready for use. Oh, now this is going to be much easier, also for beginners, and also a friendly and easy administration panel, new technologies, and also access to the disabled. So it's very important for online stores, and research shows that it is a huge market which has not been used. People with disabilities, like those people who can't use a mouse, and then if you want to use the keyboard only, then something doesn't work, you can't navigate on the website, or you have to go through the whole menu, 1000 items, with the space or tab. So people who can't use a mouse because they have some disability, they want they also should be provided with access. Compatibility with mobile devices. Also, the theme will be responsive design, HTML5, and also the possibility to use mobile solutions and a number of other things. Not everything has been arranged and agreed because we have a long way to go before the development stage. Internal changes in Magento 2, where we had the code like data grid, data table, in administration panels, those things which have no logics, no algorithms, and they used to describe certain functionalities. Now they are in XML. And the XML is validated, so we have access for validation of the code. So we won't have situations where there will be a typo in the XML code and we can't see what's happening. And modules by this coupling dependency injection to make testing easier, and also changes in themes, so that the themes will be more condensed, compact, to work better, and modules, so we'll have everything in code in one catalog, like pictures, styles, JavaScript, it will all be in one catalog, each with separate modules, so it will be easier to deinstall a new API in the new technology, and not to duplicate the code, and faster REST and SOAP will also be provided, and also we will have tests, static tests, unit integration, performance based on JMeter, and functional based on Selenium, if you're using those tools. So you're pretending a user, we're pretending to be a user, clicking things and see how it works. So it's done automatically, because previously we had a large group of people, quality testers, who had to do it manually, but then we have more and more of those mechanical or automatic solutions for testing. Now for themes, we'll have skins which will be part of the theme, and we'll have skins for other languages, so it will be much easier to create themes. With themes you will have less mistakes, and Sergei Shizhenko, our programmer, 2 weeks ago had an interesting presentation about it, so if it's available I can provide it to you if you're interested. And we have continuous integration environment with many tests, integration, static 14,000. So most of that is or will shortly be available for you, for programmers, developers, to include it in your work. If you're changing something, you have our tests, your tests, it means that you didn't destroy anything, damage anything in the core or in your part. We're not looking at functionality tests, they are read, but they are in other systems, it's not important. So to wrap up, Magento 2 is a project at an early stage. We are going to see far-going changes in the code, so we'll have time for modernization of stores and extensions, so the time for changes will come. It will change for both extension developers and programmers, but we will have enough time to learn. We want to have an advanced product of good quality, but we need time to do it, and we need to work with the community. And because as a firm with main presence in the US, there are things we don't know about Europe. That includes taxation. No one knows it actually. I tried to work on that. I asked our partners how taxes work in their countries. No one knows how taxes work. What are the rules for rounding up? Mainly about rounding up. What do you need to show precisely on your invoice for online store to be compliant? And each country has their own requirements, and it's not clear. We encourage all developers to join the efforts of developing Magento 2. The code is available at GitHub. Each programmer can find it with the core code. We have also documentation in Wiki. And we hope that we'll have a good, meaningful code. We publishing images of companies the code comes from, so it's a good advertisement, but also an opportunity to learn and work with us to help in the process of developing Magento 2. If you see the discussions at GitHub in the repository, interesting discussions on how to solve problems. So I'm ready to answer any questions you may have. If I'm able to answer them, I'll do so. If not, I can find me on Twitter, Piotr Kamiński. So you have any questions? So upgrade, well, data upgrade will be automatic. Code upgrade is, well, we are trying to provide more and more tools for migration, to change some tracks, to repack catalogs, to change some file names. You have to change, but we'll need considerable effort from programmers to move the code to Magento 2, but this is why we provide long support for Magento 1 service packs. So if you want to open a new shop on Magento, you should use Magento 1 over the next half year or 1 year, because you shouldn't wait for Magento 2, and I think it will be several years before it makes sense to go to Magento 2. I don't want to give you the time scales, it's too early. We'll certainly have community and enterprise, but time scales, dates, I can't give you any dates now. Well, the professional version was scrapped or removed for this project, so I don't think we'll have it, but I can't tell you precisely. Again, the question is without a mic. You mean developers certification or examinations?
If for Magento 2 there will be a separate certification, how it will work? Thanks. We will have Sorry about that. Well, we will have a separate certification for Magento 2 and for Magento 1 in parallel. The Magento 2 certification is planned to be ready as soon as Magento 2 will be released. But since Magento 1 will be around for years to come as well, it makes sense to support both versions at the same time. Thank you.
Any other questions? You have any other questions? Vinay, again, the question about the version of Magento.
It's supposed to be 1.5 now. Will it be upgraded to 1.7? Yes, it will.
We will be upgrading the certification for Magento 1 in probably very early next year. So, yeah, we'll be updating quite a bit of the certification actually. So, why don't you go ahead and do it, you know, like tomorrow. So, good question, yeah.
Certyfikaty też nie mają podanej wersji, więc myślę, że warto teraz zrobić.
there are no versions for certificates, so you have. Well, it's worth doing the certificates now before they become more difficult in the future. Any other questions? Well, again, without the mic, so interpreters can't hear the question. So, well, yes, two things about external technology that's going to change. So we won't have prototype with jQuery, but I know there are fans of prototype also. Not here. Not here. There are no prototype fans here. So we all switch to the jQuery. We'll scrap prototype. We won't use it. It's still in the repository, but it will be removed totally. We have an entire dedicated team for switching, changing everything to jQuery. And the data grid, some components will be upgraded to jQuery, so we can then be able to send columns. And Zane framework 2. There's been no decision. It's not easy to switch to Zane framework 2. So we're using components like dependency injection manager. We're using it from there. But a part will be moved, transferred, maybe first two things, so maybe eventually, well, at some point in time, we'll switch to Zane framework. We're supplying Zane framework together with Magento, so if there are any bugs in Zane framework, one will provide it together with Magento, although it will no longer be supported by the original, by the firm. I have a question about Magento Connect. Are you planning any changes here? That's a question. That's also an important area where we may have changes. We'll definitely have changes here. But for Magento 2, we have 5 project managers and generally as many as 10 project managers. I don't know this field, but there are going to be some changes. And transactions, buying modules, direct and connect website. I don't know. I know it's very important. We'd like this to happen, but that's a business decision to be made, whether it makes sense. So I don't know. I don't know. I will tell you later. I'll ask someone. I don't know if they are used, but I want to be compatible with 5.3. I don't know. I'm not sure if I really know what you're talking about, so I was not there at the development paradise. You mean external extensions, or? We're using some tools for static code analysis, which shows code complexity. We want to reduce functions which have schematic complexity with code complexity. We want to change them, trying to change them to make them easier, but this is about our code, so I don't know about external extensions. I don't know. These are publicly available tools. They are just connected by our scripts for them to work on Magento. At GitHub, you have separate catalogs, functionality tests of tasks on Selenium, testing this functionality, clicking various things. But we want to provide the scripts we use for Jira, Bamboo, Taija. for internal work. We're not providing the configuration because everyone has their own way of working, but we'll provide as many tools as we can. But if you have any detailed questions, I can ask someone and give you the answer. We don't have time for other questions.